This is Krista, and she just finished building a house for under $200,000 in LA. Now, in a city where the average home cost is $940,000, this is quite a feat. And once she had the permits, the construction only took 3 months. So today we're gonna learn how she built not one, but actually 2 ADUs in her backyard, how much money she's able to rent these out for, the big mistakes she made along the way that cost her tens of thousands of dollars,
and why some people aren't a fan of these houses being built.
First, let's see what you can build for under $200,000 anyway. This is Krista's backyard. You can see the 1,500 square foot main house, the house that actually used to be a garage that they converted into a small house, and the brand new construction ADU. So while this is technically a studio, it actually lives a lot more like a 1-bedroom because the bedroom is off on its own little hallway, which is really clever actually. It's funny because this is a similar square footage to my apartment, but this feels way bigger. Like the kitchen is so much bigger than my kitchen. It's truly like a full-size kitchen. I'm so jealous. All the finishes feel really modern, and I was kind of wondering, for under $200,000, is this gonna feel really cheap? And it doesn't. It's nice that the bedroom feels really separated, like a true 1-bedroom, even though it's a studio, and there is even a little outdoor space. So I think it turned out really nice. Like I would totally live in this. So let's learn how Krista got started in all of this.
So my first experience was when my husband and I purchased this home in 2018. We were looking for something that had an old garage, ideally on the property. So that was really the first step for me, was just to find an opportunity. Around 2020, I renovated the garage in the backyard. It's 425 square feet. It became a midterm rental, and it's been really, really popular. It took about a year and a half. It actually took longer to build than it should have because I went about it the wrong way.
Oh.
So I had a lot of learnings at the beginning.
We'd love to learn from you then.
Yes. What I did at the very beginning, I was trying to build the unit as cheaply as possible.
Basically, Krista didn't pull permits, and she hired a handyman instead of a general contractor to convert the garage.
Our neighbors right beside us, they were getting inspected at the time. Yes. So the inspector was up on the 2nd floor, and he could clearly see down in the backyard of this home that there was a porta potty outside. There was a lot of activity going on.
What's going on over here?
Exactly. So he could tell, he looked at the address in the system, and he could tell that we obviously didn't pull any permits. And that is when, a few hours later, I had a cease and desist work permit on my gate outside, and they basically said you have to stop all activity and you have to go through the formal process of pulling permits with the city of Los Angeles.
So she had to demo everything and start over completely. But in the end, it was all for the best.
So when the inspector came to do the final inspection and say that the home is finished, he mentioned that when he first came to the ADU, back when the handyman was still working on it, he said that there were pipes in the ground that were supposed to be gas pipes that were actually never meant for the ground. They should never be under soil, and various other concerning things like that.
Yeah.
So in the end, I'm very, very grateful that that was my first learning, and now I know that all of my renovations, all of my flips, everything will be permitted.
Do you remember with the garage conversion how much it ended up costing?
So it cost in total around $150,000. That was
good.
not so bad. Yeah, it probably could have been closer to around $120,000 if I didn't have to hire a contractor to turn it back to a garage and then back into an ADU. It was right before the peak prices of materials during COVID.
Okay, so after completing the garage is when Krista decided, all right, I'm gonna build a brand new construction ADU. She actually had a very clever reason for keeping it under 500 square feet.
So this accessory dwelling unit is just under 500 square feet because anything over 500, you pay school taxes and school fees.
Oh, that's good to know. Those are hefty. Those can be.
That's right. I was quoted around $5,000. So it is a savings. Yes. So the architect originally drew this up for about 525 square feet. And then he had the conversation. That's the first time I found out about the school fees. And he mentioned that's something we could do. So I said, that's a great idea. Let's go in that route.
And if you're curious as to why this is, it's because school fees are really just intended to help fund schools that are impacted by new development. But they figure that a home that's only 500 square feet likely wouldn't have any kids living there, so there wouldn't be any school enrollment. So the city doesn't make them pay.
And then do you remember how the costs break down?
So before any construction started, I had a survey done of the property that was around, I believe, $2,300 just to confirm the setbacks. And then outside of that, the permit costs were over about a year and a half. It was a few $1,000s, maybe around $2,500, I would say. The permitting took much longer for this unit than it normally should in Los Angeles. And then for the construction of the actual ADU, it was $158,000, and that included all of the materials, including flooring, cabinets, countertops, appliances, all of the finishes that you see, tile, toilet, the vanity. So basically everything.
Here's how the costs break down for something like this. She spent $3,800 on an architect. The foundation was $10,000. Framing and roofing, $20,000. The rough electrical, plumbing, and HVAC was $18,000. To get the drywall, stucco, and installation done, $24,000. All of the flooring and tile totaled to $10,000. The finished electrical and plumbing was $14,000. Painting, $6,000. All the doors and windows were $3,500. Cabinets and countertops, $6,500. Really not bad considering it's such a big kitchen. And the shower enclosure was $3,000.
And then outside of that is the solar. And I chose to hire a company that cost around $5,500, which was the minimum amount of panels that the plans called for.
Oh, so does the city require it?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes. So for my first ADU, it was a garage conversion. So the city of LA does not count that as a new construction building. So I did not have to have the solar company come out and install panels. But for this one, it's a ground up new construction ADU. So yes, it did have to have solar panels.
But yeah, you don't have to get like a ton and batteries and all these things.
Exactly. And all of the bids that I got for solar, they of course wanted to sell me, 10 to 15 panels, backup battery, like all of these extra things. But at the end of the day, my plans called for, I believe it was like 5 panels. So that's all that I got, just because it's such a small home and the utilities are here for one person living will be very low.
So I'm sure you guys are wondering how much this makes when it's rented out. Krista actually rents this right now as a midterm rental on Airbnb.
Let's talk about the Airbnb side of it. What is the pricing like on Airbnb? Does it fluctuate for different times of the year? Or is it always kind of the same?
It does fluctuate, yeah. So summer is actually the peak season.
Okay, yeah.
So for the original ADU, I've charged anywhere from $3,800 to $4,000 a month during the summer months. And then the winter tends to be a little bit slower. So Jan through March, it will be rented for about $3,300 to maybe $3,500 per month. So I expect this unit to fall in line with that pricing. This one is a little bit bigger. So I feel like it should be pretty similar.
So at an average of $3,500 per month, it should take actually less than 4 years to get a full return on this investment. Of course, it's possible there will be vacancies, so it'll likely take a little bit longer, but still, that's amazing.
I know you've done midterm rentals. Would you ever think about doing like a long-term renter if someone wanted to?
I've had tenants book through Airbnb for 30 plus days at a time, and they were amazing guests. And for a few tenants that have booked originally on Airbnb, yes, absolutely. If they are good tenants, which almost everyone has been fantastic so far, absolutely, I will allow them to extend. The reason I don't generally like the long-term route is because there have been times I put a hold on the unit when friends or family come to stay, and I like the option to be able to use the unit throughout the year if we have people come and stay. So that is one thing that you don't have the option for if someone is staying for 1+ year in-house.
So yeah, you use it a bit personally for friends and family.
That's right.
That's like a really good use then to do midterm.
So this is a really great setup for Krista, but not everyone loves ADUs. They're actually a little bit controversial. Most of the criticism of people who don't want other neighbors to build these ADUs are people that are worried about street parking. Because in a neighborhood like this, for example, these houses are technically allowed to build ADUs, but there really is not a lot of street parking over here. So I could kind of see that. However, in Krista's case, there was a ton of street parking, and then she also had parking spots on her land as well. She had like 4 parking spots probably. So a lot of people just don't want the neighborhood to change, and I could kind of see that if a neighbor built a 2-story ADU and you only have a 1-story house, that would be kind of annoying. But I think as long as it's the same level as the similar houses, it's fine. And the fact of the matter is, whether the neighbors like it or not, it's legal to do in a lot of places in LA. So even if the neighbors don't like it, technically it is legal because the city wants to incentivize people to just build more housing units. And Krista found in her experience, her neighbors didn't have a problem with it.
How has it been received over here, I guess?
So I know so many of the neighbors on my block. I have their cell phone numbers. I'm very involved in neighborhood activities. And so I've been very vocal from the beginning that we are building an ADU the first time and then the second time. But what I tell the contractors, it's the same thing I tell the guests who stay in these homes, is that I know the neighbors on all sides of the home and I know them personally, I care for them, and I want to respect them. So whether it's noise or dirt or dust, whatever happens during the construction, I wanna make sure that they're taken care of. I've actually not had any negative experiences with the neighbors. People are very curious to see what's going on. I think also they're appreciative that I'm taking care of the property. So before my husband and I purchased the home, the backyard was a mess. So there was actually a lot of renovation to be done. So I think the before and after, it's such a stark difference. People are pleasantly surprised and they feel as though it's helping the community, and they feel like it's helpful for the block.
Yeah, it'll probably inspire some of your neighbors.
That's true.
To do the same thing.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it's really impressive what Krista has done, especially for this budget. It's really a win-win because she's getting a great return on her investment while also adding 2 new housing units to the LA supply. So let me know what you guys think of this down below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.